Hi guys, so today I'm going to do a little story time on this vlog. It's about an experience that I had last month, and I'm going to tell you about it now. As you know, if you've been watching my videos as this year went on, I had this like red bump that was on my nose. And I thought it was just like a pimple or a zit that just never went away. So what happened was I went to my regular doctor, and he obviously seen it because it's like right in the middle of my nose, like right here. You can see where it was. And he said, oh, it might be just a cyst that never popped or whatever. So he referred me to a dermatologist. So my mom and I went to the dermatologist, and this was on Halloween, and I don't know how long I had that little red, well, it was like, maybe like this big of a bump that was on my nose. I don't know how long I've had it for, and it wasn't from the sun or anything like that, because it happened before the summertime, maybe like in the spring or something like that. And like I said, I didn't know what it was. I tried to use different products before I get into it. I tried to use different products. Like, I used, like, some Gold Bond stuff, some stuff, because I seriously didn't know what it was, and it just popped up. It wasn't something that itched, it wasn't something that bled, it wasn't anything like that. It just popped up one day, and I hated it because it looked so weird, and I felt like people would like if we went to restaurants or something like that, people would look at it, and it would be really weird, and I didn't want to go into it because I didn't know what it was. So what happened was we got to on Halloween last year, we went to the dermatologist, and she said that she didn't know what it was. So what she did is she localized my nose, like the side of my nose, and she shaved off, I guess it was like a scalpel, a sample of it. So then in my other videos you've seen that I had like this circle on my nose, like right around here, and it was just like shaved off. So like the whole thing wasn't out, it was just like shaved off, like, I don't know, just the bump part was gone. So all you seen was like I don't know how to explain it. It was like just a shaved circle, basically. It looked like a plateau, sort of. So she got the things back, and they didn't know what it was. They still don't know. They still didn't know what it was. So she said, okay, well, you're going to have to get it completely out. So that was where she said that I had to get a MOH surgery. And I don't know if I'm saying this right because it sounds weird, but a MOH surgery, it's MOHS, is a surgery where basically it's just they take out the whole thing in steps. And it was like it was a surgery, but you didn't have to like go under or anything like that. It was localized. And I was scared because I was like, I never had surgery in my life. I never like had surgery. I never had like a broken bone or anything like that where I had to get surgery on it or whatever. So I didn't know what was going on. And I hated, like, what happened was I did not like the needles they put in. It was like a local anesthetic when they first shaved it off. The dermatologist did. And it hurt. Like, when it went in, it burned really bad. It actually made my eye on this side start, like, tearing up because it was that painful. And, like, literally, it was just that painful. So what happened was then I scheduled my surgery. It was last month. I think it was on, like, I forget, like, what day it was on. I don't remember. I would have to look it up. But what happened was it had to be in the morning because this thing could take hours and hours and hours. So what happened was we got to the surgery, and before that, I remember it was all the streets, like, from here to where the hospital was, were lined with ice because it was like a rain ice storm or something like that, so it was all icy. So when we got there, I think it was for like 7 7 something in the morning. I can't remember like what the time was, and it was like 7 in the morning. And what happened was the nurse, you just checked in, and then what happened was the nurse took you back, and it was she was like a sweet older lady. I don't know if she was like a head nurse or something like that, but she was a sweet older lady, and she was supposed to be like my nurse throughout the whole thing. So what happened was she took me back into this room, and it was still like the dermatology department. And what it was like this chair that you see like in exam rooms that went like up, down, sideways, whatever ways you wanted. And the doctor came in, and the doctor was really, really nice. Like he said, "Oh, tell me about this," and blah blah blah. And then he said, "Okay, well, this is what's gonna happen." He said, they're gonna use local anesthesia, and what they're gonna do is what this MOH surgery is that takes so long to do is because they don't take out the whole thing. What they do is they take out a thin piece of it every time. And what happens is every time they hold on, guys. Every time that they do this, they take a thin piece of the sample of where the thing was, where I don't know what it was. I'm just gonna call it a thing, you guys. Like that red dot was there, and they just went around like with the scalpel. They like localized your nose, just like on this half of it, because that's where it was, and they just scraped it like all the way around, and then they got the sample, and then they were gonna take it. So they took the sample, and they're like, okay, you have to go back. Well, what happened, yeah, you have to go back to this waiting room. So it was like this little waiting room where it was like my parents were both there, and then and there was like snacks and coffee and stuff like that you could do, and then there was like a TV, and we were the only ones there at first. And also, the one thing that I remember with this was it was the same kind of local anesthesia or local whatever you want to call it that I got the first time when I went to the dermatologist, and it did hurt a little bit. And what happened was the only thing that I was scared about was if they would have to do it every single time that I went back. And the one thing that was really bad, which I'm going to tell you right now, is there was this thing, and what it was, I think it was like a laser where, like when they cut around it and in it, the blood started coming out. So what happened was they used this laser, and it sounded like one of those things where like you kill bugs with it, and you could literally, it smelled so bad. It smelled like your skin was burning, which it probably was because that's how it stopped the bleeding, I guess. So what happened was that first time it took like 45 minutes, or not even 45 minutes, like 20 minutes. And the girl comes back, and she has the nurse that I got. She was really nice, and she was like a motherly type of nurse. Like that's how good she was. She came back, and she had this like paper, and it had like a nose drawn on it, and where the thing on my nose was. And every time she would come back, she would show me, okay, this is the spot we have to take out of, this spot we have to take out of, again and again. So what happened was the first time it was that quick. The second time I didn't have to, I don't know if I had to get more of the local in, because it was like a few minutes after. So I didn't have to get that much in. So the next time what they did was they only had to take they had to take the same amount off. So that was the second time. And it was the same thing. They just, and in the wedding, like your parents or whoever you brought could be in the room with you. So I thought that was kind of weird, because the first time it was really scary because I was like by myself. And I was like, I'm by myself. And then the second time, I know what was going to happen, so I wasn't that nervous. So what happened was they did the same thing. But this time they had to take, like, the nurse came back in the waiting room, she said, oh, they had to do something else to it. I forget what it was. Some kind of, like, I don't know what it was. I can't remember. But she basically said that it's going to take longer to make sure, because they want to make sure. Because what happens is, what it is the MOH surgery is where they have to take out, like, if it's like a cancerous spot or something where it has to come off of your body somewhere, they have to take the sample, and they take the sample so they can see what part is the bad part and what part's the good part. So that's how they know where they have to take out more of it when they come back. So it's the same thing. But then what happened was the third time it was my nurse that I had, she had to go, she was with a different patient. So I got this other nurse, and this other nurse had to do the local on my nose. And what happened and that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to do this again. She was doing the parts of my nose again, because it was an hour or two later, the local was wearing off, so obviously I would be able to feel it and everything. So what happened was she started doing my nose, and all of a sudden I could feel the local like going out of my nose and into my nose and down my throat, and it tasted so nasty. And the nurse was like, oh, that's just because, and this is a different nurse, so you guys know, this is another nurse, and she said, oh, that's just because, the membrane or something that's in your nose is weak because they're taking stuff out of it, so it could leak through and go down your nose into your throat. And oh my gosh, you guys, it tasted so nasty. Like, I don't even know how it tasted. It just tasted really nasty. And it just was like so disgusting. Like, so if that ever happens to you, better watch out. And this isn't because of, before I get, I'm on tangent, but these things could be like, obviously like cancer, stuff like melanoma and stuff like that can be anywhere in your body, but this wasn't cancer or anything. That they just wanted to get it out because they didn't know what it was. So anyway, what happened is they had to do that, and then the doctor came in, took the piece out that they needed, and then I think what happened was the next time it was the nurse I had before came back, and she said, okay, it's just like this little tiny spot. And they went back in and they had to do my nose again. It was just like the area, like where it is, like right here. It wasn't the whole nose, like I said. And what happened is it was almost like lunchtime. It was like 12:30 or something like that. And they're like, oh, just take this little spot out. And then she said, well, how about you go get lunch? So we went to go get lunch at like the little cafeteria place. And of course that was when, like all of the doctors and nurses and stuff were going to go and eat. So we went back to the room, and then of course we had to wait until all the people were back from breaks and lunch and stuff. So the doctor, it was like the other nurse that I had that did that thing, the second nurse I had came in and she said that, oh yeah, you're done, like there's no more, you don't have to go back and get like this more slides or stuff in your nose or whatever. So after the doctor came back from his lunch, which I think was like at 1:30 or something, I don't really remember. He came back and we had to do the nurses and doctors, and there was like medical students there too that were there visiting, and they were helping him too. So they had to figure out how to stitch up my nose, because obviously there was like this big gap, and obviously I didn't see it because of whatever, and to be honest, by this time, all the local that I had, it was making me a little bit woozy, because obviously I had like however many shots stuck in my nose, So I was just like exhausted, and plus I had to wake up early to get there, and everything like that. And I almost like cried because I cried because I was so exhausted and I was so happy that this is out, but now they have to figure out how to do it. So the doctor was like, well, we can't take a graft from anywhere on your face because your skin's all different on your face because of like this, like, from being in the sun and everything like that. So they couldn't use it because they didn't want it to look like, well, then I had like two types of skin on my face or on my nose, because it didn't match up. Because like, if you can see, like, my skin right here is red, and that's just because I've had that for like ever, you guys. And then I'm like, I guess because like the skin on my nose is darker because of whatever, I don't know. So they couldn't take it from my cheeks or anything like that because of the fact that the skin tone wouldn't match up on my nose and everything. So they had to fix my nose with my nose. So what happened was, as you can see, I don't want to take my glasses off because I'll be able to see, but it started, what happened was, of course, the first, like, I don't even know how long I was in. I think I was in there for like 2 hours. And the first part was they had to use a marker, and they had to figure out where to go. And this was all still local. This wasn't like I had to go into an OR or anything like that. So they had to fix my nose with my nose. And what it was all they did was they like made all these marks on my nose to figure out where to go, because obviously they didn't know where the incision should be. And that's when I started like crying, because all I wanted to do was I wanted to get this over with and be done with this so I can go home and sleep and rest, because I was so drugged out and everything. So then what happened was then the nurse had to put locals all the way from like, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like right here where my eyebrow starts, all the way down to like, I think it was like all the way down to here. So he left because he had to go deal with another patient that had to do the same kind of like Mohs surgery, but not on their nose or anything like that. I guess, at least I don't think so. Probably like on their like hands or legs or something like that. So he had to go do another part of surgery for somebody else. So they're like, oh, well, this is good. Then it can like the local anesthetic can like work its magic and stuff like that. So what happened was after he came back, what it basically was with fixing my nose with my nose was they were going to stretch my skin to fit over this. So they did, and then they had to put in, like, they didn't put in stitches or staples or anything like that. They put in sutures, and they were like these little blue things. That's the best I could describe it. And it didn't hurt at all, because obviously I was still localized and stuff like that. But what happened was I had to, obviously cover it. So they had to put on, like, this Vaseline stuff on my nose, like, where the suture was. So basically, the nurse said, it's going to look like a mitten, and it does, because it's, like, this part, and then it goes up to where my eyebrow starts. And let me tell you guys, when I got out of there, it had to take, like, 2 hours, because when I got out of there, it was, like, 3 o'clock or 3:30. So that was, like, the longest part of the whole thing. And when I got out of there, they were like, well, first they said, well, okay, you have to, like, cover up your nose, so you have to put gauze on it, and some kind of, like, tape. It was, like, this it was, like, this brown tape, and Vaseline on it. Vaseline is, like, their thing of choice. They recommend it for everything, instead of Neosporin. I don't know why they don't use Neosporin, but it was Vaseline. Petroleum jelly, basically. And it's just supposed to heal up. So I had to go back in a week after that to get the sutures removed. And before that, let me tell you guys, I don't have a picture of it because I don't think you guys would want to see it. But what happened was when we got home, I cried because I could not get to sleep because the stuff was wearing off. And the local was wearing off, so of course it felt like it just felt like the stuff was wearing off, so it felt like I was feeling the stitches being, like, pulled and prodded, like, everywhere, like, even my skin. And the one place that it did hurt was, since it was so close to my eye, like, it was, like, right here, it hurt that bad because of the fact that it felt like I couldn't move my eyeball or even, like, rub it because of that. And I got a black eye from it. It wasn't because of, like, anything that happened, or it wasn't anything weird. It was just because the nurse said that because of all the anesthetic, the blood vessels would, like, get bigger, and they were going to, like, make this side of my face swollen. And what happened was I got a black eye. And it was, like, a black eye that was, like, it felt like there was, like, a vein, like, right at the top of my eye, like, where my eyelashes started, like, right here, because it was, like, this brownish, reddish, like, thick line, and then all down here, it was black and blue, like, someone, like, punched me in the face. That's what it looked like. It looked like I was in, like, it looked like when, with all the stuff on my nose, and then my black eye and stuff, it looked like I was in, like, a bad fight. Like, that's how it looked like. So, and the thing was when we got out of there, and we were able to go home, and it wasn't, like, an overnight thing, like, they just let you go home. And I took an Advil. And that did not help at all. It did not. Like, I swear it did not. Because when I went home, I tried to sleep. I couldn't, anything like that. They did give me, like, some kind of pill where it was, like, an antibiotic to help with everything, so nothing got infected or anything like that, I will say. But what happened was we got home and I just cried because I was in pain and I couldn't sleep. It was really bad. And then I didn't they said to not do anything to this for a day, so 24 hours. So I didn't take a shower or anything. So the one thing I was so worried about was I literally thought that the next day when I took a shower, it was gonna hurt so bad. Or even when I took off the tape and stuff that was on, I thought that the sutures were gonna like come out, but they didn't. So what happened was before, at least that's what I feel like, is when before I took a shower, I took some Advil. I just took one Advil because I didn't know how bad it was gonna be. And it worked because I didn't feel anything. Now the weirdest part was actually like towards the last 2 or 3 days when I had the sutures in, because it felt like they wanted to come out. And they were like moving, like the tied part wasn't moving, but like the tails or whatever you want to call them were. And I was like, I'm so ready to get these out. So ready to get these out. And so then we had to wait a week. So we went back the next Wednesday. And I was like, I was so scared. I thought, oh my gosh, what if like the thing didn't, like the scar didn't close up and then I have to leave them in more. And I don't want that because I didn't like those sutures because they were like a pain because they were in the way and stuff. And what if like, I don't know what else I was thinking, like what if it hurts, and what if they had to like redo it, like what if they had to redo it, or what if they had to like localize my nose again or whatever. I was so scared again, but I wasn't that nervous. I just knew that, hey, it wouldn't take that long. It would just take like maybe a few minutes, and then they would just cut the sutures out, look at it, tell me what to do, and that would be it. So they cut them out. I don't know what they used. I think they used like regular scissors, and it was like a nurse did it, and then the doctor came in because I guess the doctor was busy doing other things, more surgery, stuff like that. So a girl was doing it, and before we left, I took an Advil because I read somewhere on the internet that, oh, like maybe you should take something before you go just in case it does hurt. So basically I took an Advil and we left, and I did not feel them at all. Like I didn't feel them at all. I did feel like the cold scissors on my nose, but I did not feel them like coming out or anything like that. And I don't even know how many I got, but they were like, okay, well, wait another week, put more, you don't have to put on like the gauze and the tape on your nose anymore, just put on the Vaseline for a week, and then you can go back to using makeup or whatever, which I don't use makeup or anything like that, obviously, and that's it. So I have to go back in another couple, I think it's like 2 or 3 more weeks, so they can make sure that it's healing up and stuff, and if they need to do anything else to it, they can. Now, the one thing I will say is because I wear glasses, it was hard because when I took it off, I think it's because now that because they had to fix it and everything, this side is smaller than the other side because my glasses always keep chipping off more. And the fact that when you put on the gauze and stuff, it does make your glasses fall off more, I noticed. And the other thing that is a pain, and I don't know why they didn't do anything to it, is I have this like, you can't really tell, but I have this like bump in my nose, and that's the spot where they took, that's not the spot where they took everything, but it's the spot on top where they took everything out. And they said, oh, it's just like an inflammation, swelling, and it's just part of the healing process. But it does drive me crazy sometimes, like it really does. And when they first took off everything, it still does feel like this, where if you rub like somewhere that's like really close, like it doesn't, like it feels like, it doesn't feel that like that anymore. But when they first took out the sutures and stuff like that, and I was still getting used to it, every time I like rubbed my face like anywhere near here, it felt like it was like splitting apart. Like that's what it felt like. And I mean, it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just red, like as you can see, it's just red. But it's okay. Like it doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't feel like, the only thing it does feel weird when I touch it, like right around here, because it feels weird. But I guess it's just getting used to it. I don't know. So that was my Mohs surgery experience. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. Please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, share this video, and I'll see you guys next time with another video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.